After a year of closures and cancellations, parents and athletes have reason to be excited this week. On Thursday, high schools and youth sports in Washington can start to allow spectators in the stands at 25% capacity.
Tonight, the Spokane community members will be able to provide feedback on the proposed downtown sports stadium.
And a property owner is out of the hospital following a shootout with the Spokane County Sheriff's deputy. We break down the new information released in court documents today.
Temperatures continue to rise this week, and another day in the 60s is ahead of us. And we'll also look at the upcoming spring weekend forecast.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 6 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Hello everyone, I'm Regina on. Whitney is off tonight. Well, we are learning new details after a property owner and Spokane County deputy shot at each other last week in Chattaroy.
Our Morgan Trout has the search warrant that investigators used to piece together the scene. As she tells us, the property owner and the deputy have different accounts about what led up to that shooting.
Right through this door behind me, a shootout led to a property owner being wounded on the floor of his shop. We have the documents of what led up to a Spokane deputy firing his weapon the evening of March 7th. 41-year-old Lloyd Vaughn lives in Elk, but according to court documents, he stayed overnight on his Chattaroy property to ward off thieves. His wife called Crime Check to ask for a deputy to do a prowl check as she said items and equipment were stolen. 8 hours later, Spokane County Deputy Craig Cupo arrived on the scene. Investigators say Cupo was in a marked vehicle and in uniform. Court documents say there were no lights on the property, so Cupo brought a flashlight. Cupo told investigators Vaughn came out of the shop and pointed a gun at his face. Cupo said he identified himself as being with the sheriff's office several times before Vaughn used an expletive. The documents say Cupo then fired his handgun at Vaughn. The records say Vaughn remembers the night differently. He said he didn't know authorities were asked to check on the property, and when he saw someone looking around his yard with a flashlight, he confronted him and told him not to move. Court documents say Vaughn says he doesn't remember Cupo speaking to him until after the shooting. Vaughn told investigators that just 3 seconds after he confronted the man, he saw flashes of light and was struck by a bullet. Falling to the floor, Vaughn says he pointed his revolver toward the last location he saw the person and fired all 4 of his rounds. Investigators say the deputy provided medical care to Vaughn until he was taken to the hospital and went into surgery. When he woke up, court records show Vaughn told authorities he has numerous health issues, including vision difficulties that make him wear an eye patch and mental health problems. He also admitted to investigators he was under the influence of marijuana at the time of the incident, but believes it was not enough to impair his decision-making skills. Charges have not been filed against Vaughn, but he is under investigation for first-degree assault. Investigators used a search warrant to get a blood sample for a toxicology analysis. The sheriff's office says the deputy was placed on administrative leave, which is protocol when investigating these type of events. Reporting in Chattaroy, Morgan Trout, KREM 2 News.
The Spokane Public School Board is once again seeking your input about a new sports stadium. The current plan is to tear down and replace Joe Albi Stadium, but a group of business leaders have long been pushing for that stadium to be built in downtown Spokane instead, and they have yet a new proposal on the table. Our Casey Decker joins us live tonight with those details. Casey?
Well, hey, Mark, I'm standing right now in the proposed location of that stadium. It's on the north bank of the Spokane River in a parking lot here just east of the Spokane Arena. Now, a lot of you guys might be thinking, haven't we been here before? Well, yeah, we have. In 2018, that's when voters initially approved that massive school bond, a portion of which funded a new stadium. That same election, there was an advisory vote, and a large majority said they wanted that stadium to be built at the current Joe Albi site, not downtown. The board listened to that vote and approved a plan to build up in Northwest. That plan is currently wrapping up the design stage, and construction bids are actually supposed to go out in a few weeks. But business leaders here in Spokane have yet a new proposal for another downtown stadium on the table. So what's different about this proposal? Well, first of all, this land is now publicly owned, which means the school board wouldn't have to go and try to buy new land downtown. Secondly, there's a more detailed plan for parking. Third, a minor league sports team has agreed to come to Spokane, a minor league soccer team, if the school district builds the stadium downtown. And fourth, business leaders say the stadium would bring the kind of kickstart that the local economy needs because of the pandemic. So they made their case to the board last week. The board actually, though, didn't weigh in at that time. They wanted to hear more public input first, and that's what's happening tonight. There'll be a virtual forum where people can weigh in, give their opinions. We'll fill you in on what that ends up going like in just a little while here tonight. Mark?
Casey, thank you. Well, in Idaho, we now know when more people may start to get vaccinated. Today, leaders outlined the rest of the state's plan for its vaccine rollout. Ian Smay of our KREM 2 vaccine team is in the newsroom tonight to explain what it all means. Ian.
Yeah, Regina, the news comes after Governor Brad Little approved recommendations from the state's COVID-19 Vaccine Advisory Committee. New groups of people will be eligible every few weeks going forward if all goes to plan. But the biggest headline is that we now know when the general public is supposed to be eligible for the vaccine. The recommendation approved by Governor Brad Little means that Group 3 is no longer based on occupation. Instead, it will now be based on age and pre-existing medical conditions. On Monday, Idahoans aged 55 to 64 with at least one underlying condition started to be eligible and were given priority for 1 week. Next week, all Idahoans 55 to 64 that are part of the general public are eligible. After this 2-week period, the eligibility opens up for those aged 45 to 54 on March 29th, with the first week of the 2-week period being for those with underlying health conditions. That means that on April 12th, the eligibility opens up to those aged 16 to 44 with at least one pre-existing condition. Then, 2 weeks later on April 26th, all Idahoans 16 and up become eligible.
So this means that before May 1st, all Idahoans will be eligible for vaccines. We are very excited about this opportunity and this schedule.
Like Elke Shaw-Tolik said, this plan means that Idaho will actually beat the guidance given by President Joe Biden for states to make the general public eligible by May 1st. If a 16 or 17-year-old wants to get the vaccine but their parents don't want them to, the state says a discussion will happen with the parent and the provider. Some providers in the state have also started making no-waste waiting lists to make sure unused doses don't get wasted. In the newsroom, Ian Smay, KREM 2 News.
All right, Ian, thank you. Let's turn to weather now. Another beautiful day all across the inland northwest. Look outside, and the sun is still out at 6 o'clock. Thomas, we could, though, see some showers later on this week, but some 60-degree temps as well, right?
Yeah, and we'll get the 60s first, and then the showers, because that'll be our cold front that moves through. Well, yeah, still more sunshine out here. We're getting into the what is known as the golden hour, right? Getting closer to that sunset time, which is just before 7 o'clock. So almost an hour left of the sun being out before it sets. Still 51 degrees here in Spokane. It has been beautiful. Still some warmer days ahead. But as per the usual for March, once we get to the overnight hours, clear skies means that those temperatures do free fall quite a bit. It'll be about 31 degrees first thing tomorrow morning, but then the sunshine helps us get well into the 50s yet again for tomorrow, which will be St. Patrick's Day. There are those clear skies, hardly any cloud cover across the state right now. As we widen things out, we'll notice that next weather system. So yes, we get the warmer weather out in front of it, and then the rain will head our way for Thursday evening and into Friday morning. Not a huge weather maker, but we'll be timing out that weather system and show you how long the 50s will still be able to persist even into this weekend, which will be the start of the spring season. So those details on this weekend coming up in a few minutes.
We'll talk to you then. Thomas, thank you very much. New today, family members have identified the skier who died after an accident at Schweitzer Mountain Resort over the weekend. Heath McHenry was skiing on Friday afternoon when that accident happened. According to a Schweitzer spokesperson, McHenry was flown to a hospital where he later passed away. The spokesperson said the nature of his injuries and where the accident happened are unknown at this time to them. Well, his wife, Kelsey McHenry, said in a Facebook post that her husband, Heath, quote, died doing what he loved, skiing on a beautiful bluebird day at our favorite mountain. The circumstances leading up to the incident have also not been released.
Well, with the COVID-19 vaccine comes posts all over social media, and some are true and some are false. So coming up after the break, we'll fact check a claim about an insurance company not paying out a policy if the person dies of COVID-19 vaccine complications. We'll be right back.